We're actually starting after a while. I was busy moving. So it's good. Now, the only problem is everybody's forgotten the Gita and where we left off. So, yeah, it was a good idea to recap. So, if Seema is ready, you can start, Seema, with second chapter summary.
Sure. You can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. So I started listening and I realized that you're right, I had forgotten almost everything. Let's see, chapter 2, in my notes here, one of the key points, first of all, chapter 2 is the summary of Gita.
Mm-hmm.
And what I really took out from chapter 2 was, of course, you explained so much, but what I took out was there are three types of people who read the Gita. One is people who want to get rid of the problems and misery, people who want to gain something like gain health, wealth, and thirdly, there is the sincere seeker of truth through the Gita, because Gita is like a solutions manual, as you said. All of us have day-to-day problems and we want a way out of those problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are three main causes of the problems. One is ignorance, the second is a disturbed and restless mind, and the third is negativity or impurities, like, you have cravings, aversion, jealousy, greed, anger, all those negative emotions. So the solution is what the solution is given in the Gita, as I understand, is number one, starting with karma yoga. And karma needs to be aligned to dharma. So when you act from a very stable and centered mind. We don't act from a space of A, desire, B, expecting any outcome. We just give our 100%. Then the action will be skillful, and in that case, there is no consequence, which I understand as we don't accumulate karma. And then you also mentioned something important about, let me back up a little bit. We exist on different layers, like even in the Art of Living course, we teach about how there are 7 layers of existence, right, going from the gross to the very subtle level, so from the body to the being. And in a state of ignorance, or when we have the veil of ignorance, we think we are separate from the whole, separate from what is called one or what is unity. And beyond this veil is our soul or the consciousness. But we don't operate from the level of the soul. We operate more from the lower levels. The Gita says that we need to operate from the level of the soul. Then the karma will always be aligned with the dharma, which is very important. But again, while we are in ignorance, we do not take action. We make wrong choices. And again, the whole point of Karma Yoga, this chapter is, you live from the level of the soul, you operate from that level of existence. And again, Karma Yoga is to remove the what is defined as vasanas, the tendencies of the mind, the habits, the impressions. Basically, when you do Karma Yoga, you break that cycle. And because the impressions drive. And the whole point of evolution is not to be driven by these limiting, misery-inducing habits, but from a state of awareness, we break this chain and we act more from the level of the soul, which means we imbibe qualities of love, compassion, caring. And what else? Then I think in I don't know which verse, maybe verse 41 to 45, there's a talk about how the rituals are conducted, but they are more for the physical level. Any pujas, they're done more for the physical level, and physical level here meaning the 3 gunas. We have 3 gunas. So Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that, oh, Arjuna, you need to rise above the body and mind. So rise above these three gunas. And, rise above the opposites, because the mind is stuck in duality. So rise above the opposites, remain in a state of sattva. And most of all, be established in yourself. I mean, that's the main thing. Yourself, because once you do that, everything else flows from there. And again, a person who knows his true self does not really need this aspect of doing the rituals. And then also you highlighted how verse 47 was sort of the main, like the defining point of karma yoga, which is essentially how your right is to work only, but not its fruit. Which I think is huge. Your right is to work only, but you don't have right over the outcome of the effort that you put in. So you accept the success or failure with the evenness of mind. You're not, and here again, you're not attached to inaction, attached to fruit of action. So both the things. This is really, I think, the sort of the crux of karma yoga. Those are the big things I captured.
Good. There's one thing. The knowledge, when it starts with the immutability of the Atma. So when Krishnji starts giving the knowledge, the first thing he starts with is the Sankhya Yoga, and then the Sankhya Yoga is really the qualities of the soul, right? Immutability of the Atma, which is beyond birth and death. It cannot be burnt. It can never die. So those ones that you're facing, they were never born and they will never die. So the initial verses from verse 12 to I think it was 18 is all about the Samkhya Yoga, which the chapter is based on. The other thing is that towards the end of the chapter, he talks about the Sthita Prajna, the one who is stable in wisdom, and what the qualities of such a person are, the Sthita Prajna. So basically, the sections is the chapter when Krishnji starts talking is Samkhya Yoga, then he talks about Karma Yoga, and then he talks about the Sthita Prajna Upasana, which is how do you get to that stable wisdom, and what is the Lakshana, what are the virtues or description of that Sthita Prajna. It's good. You got a lot out of that chapter, right? That was the main summary chapter of the Gita. And then...
Yeah, and I think... Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, when the Gita says accept success or failure with evenness of mind, it's so hard to do that. Accepting whatever comes your way after you put in your 100%. It's not easy. I mean, all these practices and knowledge, all these tools are there, but still this is just my perception. There's still internal struggle for that complete 100% acceptance.
Right. It's very difficult, of course. It's not easy. But it's a practice that, it's when you don't accept it, is when you need to read the Gita to bring you back to that wisdom. So, and then, the third and fourth chapters, because Samir is not here, it's just about, it's the nature of karma, it goes deeply into the nature of karma. So he, the ancient Vedic way they understood karma was through, all these rituals and yajnas and all. But in the Gita, Krishnji explains karma in a very different fashion. So it's sort of, how wisdom evolves as per the age. So this was the age of action. So Krishnji says, you act, but do not act as the doer. You're not the doer, right? So you must separate your egoistic self, which thinks that it is acting. So when you feel that you're separate from yourself, then you become the karta and the bhokta, meaning you feel you are the doer and you are the sufferer. So that is this endless cycle. As long as you think you're the doer, you're separate. So the teaching now goes back to then it goes back into the nature of desires, the likes and dislikes and all of that. But what drives our actions is really desire. Okay, so one desire leads to another desire, and desire propagates action. So this whole cascading effect, where Seema mentioned vasanas, the impressions, the tendencies, the patterns, the habits. Now, if you have a habit to smoke or to eat sweets, that will drive desire, correct? So if you have a habit, if you have a pattern, if you have a tendency towards something, some object or something, that will drive desire, and desire drives action. So he says that basically we should move away from desire-based action, because it'll be an endless cycle, So when your actions are driven by desire, what happens is, again, you'll actually deepen that habit. If you react to habit, if you act on habit, then you're going to deepen that habit. So that is how you break that karmic cycle. So you have to, in this chapter, for example, in 3, it says, it starts with this knowledge of Karma Yoga in terms of the Gita, not in terms of the Vedas. And then, chapter 4, it goes into the Sannyasa Karma Yoga, which is basically the renunciation. Somebody has dropped off. Nobody's on the phone? One second. What happened? With Sumanchi we lost? Not sure how we lost Sumanchi. Whoa. I can't hear you. Seema, okay.
Sorry, I thought he was he muted himself, muted the camera, I mean.
No, he's not on the hangout, right? It's Jyotika, Naina, you and me. So not sure where he went.
Let me just text Jyotika.
Jyotika's on the call. We are missing Jyotika. She's there.
I'm on hangout. Jyotika is there. Okay. Let me call Sumanji.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. He was there on the phone, and then Sumanji, can you be louder? Yeah, he was there. I'm not sure what happened. So chapter 4, it goes into the renunciation of action through knowledge. So one second. It's been a little rough, this session. Oh, Seema is doing. Oh, he's dialing. Okay. Yeah. So then chapter 4. So chapter 4, there are the main points is basically he talks about what is it's a knowledge on avatar, and what is its result, and why an avatar is needed, an avatar is needed whenever there is a degradation of knowledge, of dharma. So whenever there is a degradation of righteousness, of truth, there's always a coming back It's like cycles. So there's a coming back of the rise of consciousness again when there's a dip in dharma, when there's a dip in the truth. And then it talks about the wisdom of seeing action in action, and vice versa. So the thing is that there are always two realms. One realm is the action layer, where you're acting. But to know that there is also a layer of consciousness or awareness which always pervades everything. Even though you're acting, you must maintain that awareness of yourself in that action. And the other way around is when you see action and so when you are in the world and you're acting, you should be aware of inaction. And when you're in a state of samadhi or when you're in a state of deep consciousness, also from there, when you're aware that everything is happening. So that is the wisdom of seeing inaction in action and vice versa.
Vinita ji, are you recording it like you used to do it before?
Yes, I am.
The summary. Thank you, because I really enjoy it. I listen to it often to remind me when I read the chapter and don't understand, I go back to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then he talks about the glory and the means of knowledge, the benefits of knowledge, the qualifications and disqualifications to be on this path. Sumanji, are you saying something?
No, not now. But I was getting very low voice from that end. I just wanted to
Yeah, because the thing is, I have put my phone here, and the Google Hangout is on. So you're getting whatever my laptop speakers is doing. So you'll only hear that. But are you able to hear now?
Okay. Yeah, I'm able to hear now. I also put from my side. Also, I put it on a speaker phone, so I'm able to hear it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Sorry. So where was I? Yeah, chapter 4. So let me just read some of what my notes were. So be truly free. One has to recognize one's nature is free of all action, unbound by space and time, goes into levels of reality. So when we talk of sannyasa yoga, karma yoga, it is the final culmination of how to act. So in chapter 3, when it talked about you're not the doer, and the thing is that when we act from a sense of separateness, we become the doer as well as the sufferer, karta and bhokta. Then in chapter 4 is the culmination. This is the highest type of karma yoga. There are different types of karma yogas that are described, and this is the highest form of karma yoga, which is basically, it is doing from a state of sannyas. And sannyas really means not that you go and run away. Okay. So, sannyas doesn't really mean that, you run away in the forests and you don't do anything. Sannyas yoga actually means that you are reposed in yourself while you act. So it is acting from still being dispassionate. So that is what sannyasa karma yoga is. So it is not right to be totally in sannyas and not to do action, nor is it okay to do action being dislodged from your center, from your self. And that is very important, because the times when we are not centered in awareness is where we falter, like we might lose our anger, we might lose our temper, we might, get attached, we might become miserable. But at those times, we have stepped away from our awareness. We have become disconnected from our awareness. So when you realize your own nature, how can you be established in that and act from there? It's the only way is when you're established and you know your true nature. Okay? So that is really the crux of chapter 4. Okay? He talks about other things in this chapter. He talks about the gunas, the 3 qualities of energy, specifically how they relate to the human mind. There are many other things that he describes here, but if you want to go back and you want to remember what is chapter 4 about, this is all you need to kind of remember. Okay? So who had chapter 6? So it's
5.
No, chapter Sannyas Yoga. So that's
Isn't Tattva Bodh?
chapter 6, huh?
Isn't Tattva Bodh chapter 5?
Tattva
Was it
Bodh?
chapter-
No.
Okay.
So basically, Tattva Bodh actually doesn't relate to any one particular chapter of the Gita. It is sort of it assumes that the person who's reading the Gita has the fundamental knowledge of these things. It's a prerequisite. So it assumes that you know what the 3 gunas are. It assumes you know when he says subtle body, or when he says para and apara prakriti, when he defines the different loks, he
The chart that you posted on your session also, so I'm wondering if you can add a little bit more.
Sorry?
In my notes, chapter 5 says sannyasa karma yoga.
Yeah.
Detachment.
Correct. No, she's saying how does Tattva Bodh, maybe I spoke about the Tattva Bodh in chapter 5, I'm not sure. But it doesn't relate to any one particular chapter.
Okay.
Sorry, Sumanji?
Bintaji's voice is coming very clearly, but just now the speaker who I was not able to hear.
Yeah, you're not able to hear because I am actually in front of the phone, and the other sound that you're hearing is actually coming through the computer. But I have it on Mac, so I can't go any louder than this on the laptop. So
Okay, you are on the laptop. I see.
yes, so you'll hear me because this is my phone.
Then I switched to telephone. Okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
So Vinataji, I am able to hear clearly. Simaji was okay. This is I am not able to hear. So you are going through chapter 5, right?
Yeah, chapter 5, which is Sannyas Yoga.
Okay.
Sannyas Karma Yoga.
So are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Because then okay, fine. That's okay. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So
Venkat had it, but he's not there.
which one? 5? No.
Chapter 5.
I thought it was Samir. No. No. One sec. Oh,
chapter 3.
Chapter 5 was Venkat and Yamini. Correct. Yeah.
Oh, I got the solution. I raised my PC volume.
Okay, good.
50%.
Alright,
Okay.
that works.
I was wondering why I'm not fine.
Yeah. So let's see. What else do I want to say? So in verses 5 to 20 of the Sannyas Yoga, Krishnji mentions the term sthir buddhi. Sthir buddhi, ones whose knowledge is unshakable. Okay. So that's the gist of chapter 5, and then we can go to chapter 6.
How does knowledge become unshakable? How does knowledge become unshakable? It means you know it in and out. You know it so well that doesn't get dislodged, what is, like, how does it become unshakable? Like, you have unshakable happiness, unshakable faith. We use the term unshakable very often, especially in Art of Living.
The only way you can become unshakable is when you become knowledge. When you realize that you are knowledge. So, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. So, Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman. And like you say, Atma is Sat, Chit, Anand. So, the Chit aspect is consciousness also, but it is also knowledge or intellect or Chit. Chit means consciousness, but it is all knowing, it is knowledge itself. So it is not something that you acquire from outside, and it comes in a later chapter. I don't remember which chapter it was, where he says, I think it was chapter 9 or 10, where he says para and apara, vidya, there's two things. This is vidya and jnana and what is the chapter's title? One second. Yes. Hold on. What is that? Vidya. Sorry, it irritates me when I can't remember. So one is acquired knowledge and one is your own knowledge. I can't remember what's the term that he was using.
So does it mean when you are self-realized? Because when you say you realize that you are knowledge, meaning you are self-realized?
Well, that would be, yes. It would be a state of self-realization. But it comes in stages. It's not that it'll be absolute, but you become more and more stable in knowledge. Anyway, when we come to that chapter, I'm sure we'll realize what it was, those terms. But it's not an acquired knowledge, it's you become stable in knowledge when, like when you say I practice knowledge, you've applied that knowledge. It's something similar to that you're living it. You don't have to make an effort.
Yeah, the way I understand is that the knowledge gets applied on its own. I mean, you're just absorbing knowledge. You're in that space, but when the time comes for you to practice, it's not a doing. It's a happening. It's just it's a happening.
Correct. Like somebody who's calm, a person who's calm, he doesn't have to practice being calm. He's just calm. That's his nature. Right. And you don't have to be patient. Some people are just patient. It's their nature. So basically, when knowledge, you don't have to, when it flows through, that's what you call wisdom, right? Integrated knowledge is called wisdom. When you say he's a wise person, it means it's flowing through him. That knowledge is flowing through him effortlessly. He's become wise.
Right.
Okay, chapter 6.
I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to do chapter 6. That was allotted to me.
Okay, that is basically, so it's a very important chapter. It's on Dhyan Yoga. And because, most of you are seekers, it's very important to know how Dhyan is, and the process of getting into Dhyan, the description of Dhyan, the fruit of Dhyan, and then description of the yogi who is established, whose mind has become still. That description is very nice. So basically it's it is the whole thing, from start to end. It describes the yogi. And so this chapter is essentially about Raj Yoga. It's the path of a yogi, as we would see it. Now we say in Gita, this yoga has many meanings depending on the context. But in today's terms, when we say, oh, he's a yogi, it means he practices Raj Yoga, means asanas, meditation, blah, blah, blah. Whereas compared to a bhakta, now bhakta, we never say he's a bhakta yogi, we just say he's a bhakta. Or we'll say karma yogi, but when we say yogi, we mean somebody who practices Raj Yoga. So this whole chapter is about dhyan. So not much we have to go into this chapter, as long as when you think of Gita, chapter 2 is a summary, chapter 3, 4 and 5 are the three versions of Karma Yoga, right? Chapter 6 is about dhyan, how to get into dhyan, what is the state of dhyan, what is the result of dhyan, and the praise of the yogi who's established, who's achieved samadhi. So that's good enough, So we can move to chapters 7 and 8. 7 and 8, who has?
Jyotika had.
Jyotika. Jyotika, you're on.
Okay, can you hear me?
Did you say something? I think you're muted. Yeah, go ahead. Oops.
Am I okay now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jyotika.
Okay. So this chapter is Gyan Vignan Yoga. It means knowledge and experience. There are many saints who have knowledge but no experience, who have experience but no knowledge.
Uh-huh.
You have equal amounts of understanding and experience, and these are mystics. Why is this? It is both necessary. In the Gita says you should have both knowledge and experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's like triggering an understanding in you. Knowledge is first to you a personal understanding or knowing. If you ponder on the knowing, it will give you all the inner experience which can make it real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? There are few people in the world who seek knowledge, and even fewer that seek and attain self-realization. Then it talks about knowledge starts with 8 folds of Prakriti or creation. The 8 petals of creation are earth, water, fire, air, ether. Earth has all the prior elements, that is water, because before earth, as you explained, the world was basically a giant ball of water, which the water became fire and cooled down. And then these 5 compose of the physical body. And the next 3 is the mind, the intellect, and the ego. And then we go on talking about creation is sustained by the higher consciousness. And then we spoke about Saint Kapil Rashi, who wrote Samkhya Yoga. It talks about creation, which is sustained by the consciousness. Creation is a combination of matter and consciousness. Atma, or ignorance, starts identifying itself and its lower identity. This is the reason for suffering, because Prakriti is always changing. Since everything is always changing in life, at this point, there is an eternal quest for something more.
Mm-hmm.
Although we know there is something there, it's hard to actually grasp it. No matter how much you try to find this higher self, we'll always maneuver back to things that are changing, because it's easier for us. And this is the part that causes suffering in creation. The ultimate is consciousness. Consciousness principle manifests itself as a law of existence, which is Dharma. Dharma does not mean religion, but it's, as you explained, it's similar to science, except Dharma goes way beyond science. The Jeev or Atma's natural nature is to seek moksha. We are basically seeking
Okay, it hung. Google Hangout is
Nature,
hung.
talk about the desires, which are part of nature, is a strength in us. When you seek something in line with nature and walk the path of truth, all of nature will support you. If you follow this path, there will be a push from the force of nature which will help in your growth. The Atma has a desire to merge into itself. And then we explain that everything is consciousness, self, the forces burning nature to merge into self is all of this is consciousness. But why is it difficult to merge into consciousness when we know all of this? Because the ego always separates us. So the key in life is for us to surrender our ego. And then we talk about people are made up of two qualities. It's either divine quality or a demon-like. And more people have this demonic quality in nature. And then we spoke about there are 4 types of people who seek consciousness. The first is people who are dissatisfied in life or people who have problems. It also could be people who have everything in life, but they are still dissatisfied. Second would be those who will seek artha or security, like money, education, job. And third would be those who want theoretical knowledge. Fourth is those who are already wise, but they seek consciousness or the ultimate. Then wise are those ones who have experienced consciousness, they have merged into consciousness, but these souls are very, very hard to find. Find something in the world will turn to devas by the form of pujas or prayers, but this is not enough. One should not stop there, as one needs to seek consciousness. We have to know that everyone is on a different path in life. We cannot place judgment on any given soul. Those who worship only Devta will only attain Devta. Those who seek me, which is consciousness, will reach that goal. One's goal should be to seek and merge into the ultimate consciousness. The supreme consciousness cannot be known. It is beyond any intellectual understanding. We can become our Atma and live it, but we can never know what that is. Right? We have to merge into it to live it. And then the last part is how to overcome Maya to merge into the ultimate that we are. When we overcome the likes and dislikes in life and transcend the bondage that is that we have, then when we break out of the chain, that will bind us. If we can transcend the dualities, we would then liberate ourselves from ego, because ego binds us to our likes and dislikes, and our mind should become clearer. And then when we take birth, we go into an amnesia and forget everything that is our true nature, but deep down we already do know what our nature is. So that was chapter 7. I hope that was okay.
Yes, pretty thorough.
Okay, chapter 8 with me as well, and it's Akshar.
So just before you proceed, so basically, when I was saying, there are 2 forms of knowledge. One is Gyan, Vigyan. So it's basically one is Gyan, which is, acquired knowledge, and Vigyan is through experience. So it becomes you. So that's what I was trying to get to, the Gyan and Vigyan. So I was trying to wonder where it was. Okay, go ahead.
So in this chapter 8, we talk who is Brahman. One who has knowledge of himself and his well-integrated personality in all existence and is well-balanced. That is Brahman. In this chapter, we talk about death and what happens at the time of death, of ego, individuality and separation, and when the Jiva Atma no longer exists. When this frame of separation drops, there is infinity.
When we remove the frame and separation, all that is left is Brahman. When the I in me drops is when we have darshan. For that, we have to drop the ego in ourselves. If we are not the body, can we have any attachments? And the answer was no, because all the attachments we have are related to our body. To progress to the path of ourselves, we have to let go of all kinds of attachments. And we have to realize the difference between the impermanent, which is our body, mind, and the roles we play, and our true nature, which is Vairagya. With Vivek always comes Vairagya, which you explained. When you know you are not the body and you are far more than the mind, automatically the attachment to the body and the mind will separate. This is required as a prerequisite for purification of the mind and to meditation. One who wants to go on this path must have the Vivek and the Vairagya, supreme, beyond which there is nothing else. So leaving the body is the death of the ego. If one puts all his energy on me, he will attain the me at the time of death. Those who focus on any particular being will go on, will go to that being. The aim is to evolve oneself even higher or to one's true nature. Many go to an intermediate stage, but the highest path we should go to is finding that being. And then we have an intermediary part, is when we pray to a siddha or a master, or take blessings from them. But most important is to evolve in ourselves. Basically, a guru or a saint is there to help you or guide you, or points you to a higher, to a direction. So wherever you direct your thoughts, in that only will you merge. Then we talk about samadhi and how to attain samadhi. When a mind is ready and full of devotion to oneself and Atma, that is samadhi. And then concentrating the prana between, I know you, and I didn't get that fully about when you explained about the prana between the eyebrows, but I know that's pranayam is a control of your entire life force energy and all the functions of the body, and samadhi is the death of ego or the death of the I within us. And then we spoke about devotion is a single-pointed self-identification with your own true nature. It is a pull of Atma, and a great gravitational force wants to get sucked into the divine love, which is bhakti. When the ego or the mind wants to merge into consciousness, that is devotion. How do we function in this world to attain your inner calling? We need to note that we have to come to this world for a certain purpose. If we focus on attaining the higher self and the smaller, to attain the higher self, the smaller immaterial things in life will just fall into place. Right? Which is, I think for most of us it's hard to believe that, but I suppose we have to experience it. And when you attain spiritual abilities, you should use these, you become very intuitive, and you should use this intuitiveness to direct your life. More fulfilling. You have to be meditative all the time and be established in the awareness of the self. Just meditation with samadhi will not get you to the higher self. When you live from a stage of awareness, then your life will be more fulfilling. And once you attain who you are, you will not be reborn. You have to attain a sense of purity and centeredness or awareness and samadhi and establish it in yourself when you reach this higher, self. And then we spoke about creation has many layers. we are basically in the third dimension called I think it's Buryo Lok. The highest log is Brahma Lok. And we have in all the logs, there's Maya, which is a chance of, and which brings us a chance of rebirth. And beyond Brahma Lok is the Supreme Spirit. The highest is Mukti. One log is Pitra Log, and that is one of our ancestors. For those who only do Karma Log, or no Upasana, or meditation, or Yagya, that soul will reach Pitra Log, and they will definitely come back. The second one is when you do Karma and Upasana, you go into a higher level, which is Devalok. Then you go through the sun to the after Devalok, you have to go through the sun to an even higher log to reach Brahma log. When you attain a certain level of evolution of your soul in the higher dimensions, they merge into Brahman. In lower dimensions, at the end of the creation cycle, the soul retains the vasanas or the impressions, become the cause of your next creation or next life. I'm assuming that's human life. And then what is creation? It's a projection of our own thoughts in our minds. And then the world is nothing but a projection of our mind and our thoughts. And only then, because of our mind and our thoughts, that's the only way that the world itself exists. So the goal is to detach ourselves from this unreal or this body and mind, and attach ourselves to the self. So at the time of death, I think it's good to focus on consciousness. So I think that pretty much sums up the chapter 8.
Yeah, chapter 8, which is Akshara Brahma Yoga, which is on the limitless Brahman to attain Brahma Vidya. And the rest of it is about, the other intermediary or the Maya, all the levels and types and all that stuff. But basically it is about the unchanging Brahman. And moksha means to go beyond the Maya and the changing to that unchanging Brahman. And, this chapter mentions Brahmalok, but then you see in chapter 9, which follows, it says even if you attain the highest lok, which is Brahmalok, it doesn't mean you have attained moksha. And it was only through Brahma Vidya, which is explained in the previous chapter, that you can cross the duality, of time, space, body, mind, and all of these things. So the chapter 9's title is called The Secret Knowledge. It is secret knowledge because it is that knowledge which will take you to realization, which will make you cross the ocean of Maya and take you to that ultimate place which is beyond duality, into that oneness, into that unchanging Brahman. So that is what chapter 9 is about. That is why it's called the royal secret. It is a sacred knowledge that releases you from bondage, and bondage is because of ignorance. So in chapter 9, Krishnji, he talks about the nature of he says his nature, but basically he's describing Brahman. He says that even though he projects this nature, this creation, this whole universe, even though he pervades the whole universe, consciousness pervades entire creation, Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam, even then he is not, the Brahman is not creation, it's a projection. So this whole Maya, this whole creation it's a difficult concept to get, because if you think of it in terms of your dream, like the dream is not real, though it is within you, it is your dream, but it's not real. So in our own experience, because it's first hand experience, we can relate to this whole world, how actually it's Brahman which came up with this dream called creation. He pervades this entire creation, like it is our dream, we see ourselves, all these things happen. But even though he pervades it, it is his dream, he is not the dream, Brahman is not the dream, this creation, this Maya is not Brahman. So when you relate to consciousness and creation, you can think of it in terms of you and your dream. Then you will understand this whole section of chapter 9, which talks about Brahman and creation. I pervade it, yet I am not it. The creation is me, but I am not creation. So when you understand it from your own personal experience, you will understand this knowledge better. That is why this is recreated in us, so we can relate to it firsthand, So the macrocosmic layer, on the totality layer, on the cosmic level, whatever is happening in creation is replicated in us firsthand, so that we can relate to it personally. So that is why the macrocosm is replicated in the microcosm. So each microcosm can understand the macrocosm through its own personal experience, through its own personal thing, because we are totality, we are creation and consciousness. And then he talks about bondage. What is bondage? What is the cause? What is the cause of bondage? Tell me. Do you know what is the cause of bondage?
Ignorance?
Yes. So the root cause of everything, whether it's on the macrocosmic layer, it's called Maya, and on the microcosmic level, it's called avidya. So it is forgetting your true nature, is ignorance. And because your true nature is perfect, it's eternal happiness, bliss, knowledge, everything, consciousness, everything. But the moment you forget your true nature, ignorance, avidya, that moment you are bound because you become limited. And so what happens is, even though ignorance is there, a lot of people don't believe that they're ignorant. So if you don't accept that you're ignorant, how can you get rid of it? So they don't believe in scriptures, they don't believe in God, they don't believe in these eternal wisdom traditions. They are the atheists. And on the other hand, then there are noble people, people who recognize that yes, there is bondage, there is ignorance, and they worship the eternal, the cosmic, the Ishvara, and they seek him or Ishwar or Brahman to get rid of the bondage. So he describes the various devotees who worship him in many ways. So there are three things. You can worship God as identical to you. Okay. Second is, some worship God as different from them. And third is, when you know that everything is God. You are also God, the creation is also God, everything is God. So these are the three types of devotees, of fashions in which individuals relate to so the first was atheists, right, who don't believe, that they're ignorant, they don't believe in scriptures or God or anything. Those are the atheists. The theists, the believers, the theists, they have three types. One is who thinks God is different from them, one is who think that me and God are the same, and third is those who think that everything is God. So now he describes, and after this is when he describes his cosmic form, the Vishwarupa. And then he talks about the two types of devotees. the people who worship him as form, in form, the Sakama Bhaktas and Nishkama Bhaktas. The ones who worship him with desires. So they have some desires, the calm, basically bhakti which has God give me this or whatever. So those are the Sakama.
Hello, is the lady of the
Bhaktas.
house there?
Sorry? Oops. Oh, great. I just lost the line. 1 second. Hold on. Just hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Sumanji, are you there?
Please announce yourself.
Sorry. Vanita?
Hello?
Yeah, Sumanji, sorry I dropped off. I got a call and I hung up and there was a problem. Anyway, so I was talking about, there are two types. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, Suman?
Yeah. Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there are two type of bhaktas. One is one who has desires, they do bhakti, but they have desires in their bhakti, and the other one is nishkama bhakti, where there is no desires. So he says that, why is nishkama bhakti? See, one is when you have desires, right? You say, God, give me this, God. Now, obviously, God is going to give you everything that you want anyway. Why do you have to ask? So, nishkam bhakti is higher because it has complete faith and surrender, knowing it's not that you relate to God with some desires. You worship and love God with no strings attached. So that's nishkam, and anyway, God will take care of everything. So then the other, then it proceeds to whether one should continue in samsara, in this bondage, or one should attain liberation. So it is your choice. Whatever in this universe, you're given a choice. You can do as you wish. So you can pursue the finite goals of this samsara, or you can worship the lower deities and ask for lower returns, whether it's Lakshmi or Saraswati or Ganesh or whatever, or you can want to attain the highest. It is up to you. So ultimately there is only one God, and all prayers go to only that one God anyway. But if you worship the finite, and if you live in the finite, you will only attain the finite. You will never attain the infinite. So, see, whatever you want, if whatever you choose is what you will be given. It's like, I think Guruji had said this one, you go to the ocean, it's up to you what you want to do with the ocean. You want to take a dip, you want to take out jewels, you want to watch the ocean, it's up to you. So whatever you want is what will be given to you. So then he talks about what type of worship should you do to attain the infinite. Now the ones who want to attain the highest is the nishkama bhakta. And the nice thing with the nishkam bhakti is it doesn't matter what ritual they do or what kind of upasana they do or whatever, because it is their intention or their attitude that matters. The purity, the outer is not important, what you do on the outside. It is the attitude which is more important. So the nishkam bhakt can offer anything they want. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Then of course he talks about karma yogi, and that the karma yogi surrenders his actions to the Lord. He surrenders the results of the actions to the Lord. And then he is basically, no matter what form what type of bhakta you have, what type of person you have, whether it's good, bad, no matter who you are, and there's so many multitudes of people and their attitudes, but God is available to all of them. And then at the last part, he talks about, he basically glorifies bhakti, and he talks about bhakti. Fix your mind on me, be my devotee, keep me and fix your mind on me, and so forth. But here, bhakti is only gonna attain. You're gonna only attain Saguna Ishvara, not the Nirguna Ishvara. Nirguna Ishvara, or the ultimate, can only be attained through knowledge. Okay, so that's chapter 9. And then chapter 10 is Vibhuti Yoga, the glories of Ishvara. So he talks about, he talks about this knowledge, this Vibhuti. So in this, if you remember, basically Krishnji shows his Vishwarupa, and most of this chapter is devoted to the glories, of not all of them, but he describes a lot of the glories, because Arjun asks him, what are your glories? So he describes all his vibhutis or glories, that are there. So this is more of a devotional chapter. It's more of a poetic chapter. It's not about knowledge here, but it's about the bhakti, the bhakti aspect. That, and you can use this chapter to meditate, when you think of the virtues of Ishwar, and the many forms, then you can use that as an upasana, for meditation. So I don't want to go too much into that because we're running out of time. But Vibhuti Yoga is simply, it's like a poem. So it's all the glories of the Lord. So that's chapter 10. And chapter 12 is Bhakti Yoga. I'm not sure who had Bhakti Yoga. Let's see.
Actually, chapter 11 and 12 was assigned to me. I'm not very good.
Yeah, sorry, 11 and 12.
But what I understood about the Vishwarup Darshan was that when Arjun listened in Vibhuti Yoga, all the supreme kind of glories of Krishna, he asked him that I would like to behold this with my eyes, your complete form. And so in Vishwarup Darshan, he kind of vision, so he is able to see everything and all the thing. He was able to see in Krishna's, and so Krishna kind of graced him with the beyond the universal form that he is. But when Arjun saw all those things, he got scared, sort of like and he offered his salutation, and first time, instead of calling him, addressing him as a friend or something, he calls him Yogeshwar.
Yogeshwar, yes.
And he was full of fear, so he asked to see the gentler form of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna assumes his gentler form and consoles him that with all types of Vedas, yoga, sacrifices, you cannot see my this form, but by single-minded devotion, you can know my this form. So I think the last verse, the sloka 55, I think you just explained it earlier, that he who does action for me, who looks on me as the supreme, who is devoted to me, who is free from attachment, who bears no enmity to anyone. He comes to me, and that's the person who can look at my Vishwarup Darshan. That's how I understood. That the Vishwarup Darshan was mainly to give just Arjuna as well as it was like a poetic license to tell us that all and everything is pervades in one being. That's how I understand.
Yes, yes.
And the Bhakti Yoga is basically, since the seed of Bhakti was planted at the end of the previous chapter where he says, he who does this for me, that's only can see me. Arjun asked the Lord Krishna to explain further details. He asked of the devotees who worships you with the form Sagun and those who worships you as a Nirgun without form, who is superior? And Lord Krishna explains that the worshippers who believes in Nirgun sees no difference between him and the Supreme Being or Ishwar. But for many it is difficult to have a faith in the formless way, so worship. In that case, the key is a single-pointed devotion. In Gita, Lord Krishna gave us some simple step-by-step approach to live like a karma yoga, renounce the fruit of the actions, then begin performing every action with the devotion to Him only, which is a bhakti yoga. And of course, there is a meditation, a dhyana yoga, and jnana yoga, sannyasa yoga, and all those things which follows later on. But the bhakti yoga is the easiest way to approach Him. This is how I understood it from my father. I missed your chapter lecture on this bhakti yoga.
It?
That was the, I think, time of my surgery.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. That's good. You at least summarized it. So now it's pretty well established in you.
I don't know about that, but the simpler version was that. That's how my father used to explain to us all the time. So
Yeah, one of the key things of Bhakti Yoga is that, in after verse number 12, where he summarizes, the first 11 verses, he talks about the virtues. So he talks about Parabhakti, the highest form of devotion. And Parabhakti is nothing else than the highest form is when you have these certain virtues, and they're all enumerated there, and it's very nice that these 19 or 20 virtues begin the actual discussion of knowledge, because we often think of knowledge as yes, of course, Atma Gyan and Brahma Gyan and all that stuff. But that is actually, if you look at it, that is the fruit of the culmination of your evolution. It's like a gift given to you. But what you have to work on, and which nobody wants to work on, and which is the most difficult, is to work on attaining virtues, on developing these virtues with conscious effort. So here it starts in this chapter, and then it continues in the 13th chapter. So, friendliness, so verse number 13. There are how many virtues? 1 second, let me see. 10, 11, 12. 12 virtues he mentions, yeah. So he mentions 12 virtues from the verses 13 to 19. You can go through them, but they're very important, This is the work we have to do. Friendliness, karuna, compassion, equanimity, forbearance, contentment, self-control, firm self-knowledge, devotion, gentleness, purity, And let's see, in the 12, okay, the resourcefulness and impartiality. So what I have come to the conclusion in my life, at this point in time, is that the most important thing is evolution in you happens as and when you attain these virtues. Otherwise, everything is acquired. You can acquire, but it will not last. It is only that which grows within you that will last, and that will bring result. So the result, you will evolve as a person, spiritually evolve as a person as you attain these virtues. So that's why, it's very important that we emphasize the virtues which are mentioned in the Gita. So then we come to Kshetra. And so the 13th chapter, you can start on Sumantji.
Yeah. Can I start?
Yes, and I hope everybody can hear. So I've got, because you're on the phone, I hope that they can hear you. Go ahead.
You are able to hear me properly, no?
Yes, I can hear you.
What about others?
I don't know. Seema, can you hear Sumanji?
We can hear.
Are you able? Yeah, then it's okay. Then
Yes,
I will
we
talk
can.
little louder.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I talk a little louder, it should be okay, I believe.
Yes, it should be.
Okay. Chapter 13. Chapter 13 covers basically the yoga of field and its knower, rather Kshetra and Kshetrajna.
Uh-huh.
Kshetra and Kshetrajna. Are you able to hear?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. That reminds me one Marathi this thing. It says Je Pindi Te Brahmandi.
Yeah.
Means the human body, as we call it, say Kshetra, is the macrocosm, is a replica of the universe. That is the macrocosm. Je Pindi Te Brahmandi.
Mm-hmm.
So Lord Krishna starts the chapter itself by telling, I am going to tell you what is this creation is, what are the different transformations, where is the source of creation, that is Brahman, and what are his powers. That is the coverage of this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
He also dwells on clearly about the transcendental knowledge. What is that knowledge? What you have to go for. While talking on that, then I was looking at that shloka of 1303 and then 1304. There it is said that the creation and the creator are different, are very different, and to understand that, you need certain qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And what are those qualities? First, I will say what is the knowledge. I will define what is knowledge, as he points out. That comes in shloka 9th to 11th.
Mm-hmm.
That is unfailing equanimity, that is samabhav, or a single-minded contemplation that comes through the meditation, taste for solitude, distaste for social gathering, steadfastness in acquiring the knowledge itself, and accepting and seeing the omnipresent presence of the Supreme Consciousness. Are you able to hear? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but how to achieve that? To get to this knowledge, you need certain basic qualities. That is, say, honesty, service to the Guru, self-control, then raga and dvesha you have to overcome.
And
then
humility.
Tatastha. If you can be tatastha, that is, you can be a witness to what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
That is the knowledge, how to, and what are the qualities for the knowledge. Mm-hmm. Then it comes to what is the Supreme Being.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to what is the Supreme Being that can be described. Now, it is omnipresent, omniscient, but then it can be appreciated rather than defined by definition. So he defines, Lord Krishna says, Supreme Being is like object of knowledge. It is the object of knowledge in one short sentence. He is all pervading and omnipresent. He is the perceiver of all the sense objects, as we know. And his greatness, as it goes to, his greatness is beyond our realization or even beyond the description, to be precise. Then he also talks of all his senses are transcendental. It means the God, Supreme God's senses are transcendental. Then in the 15th shloka he says he is as well as inside, he is also outside, he is animate as well as inanimate, he is undivided. So he is describing him by his different qualities. He is the object of knowledge and at the same time appears as the creator, Brahma here. The Supreme Being is the source of the light. And how can we get that self-knowledge? That self-knowledge, which I was thinking here at that point of time, one way of it is the meditation. Meditation is the approach that Krishna also said there. That is one way of doing it.
Yes.
Then it points out that the spirit in the body is the witness. What is the witness? He is the witness and the guide and controller of all the events that happen in the body, and he is the Kshetrajna.
Yeah, one thing when you talk about how to do it, one of the things is, neti neti in Gyan is that I am not this, I am not this. Is a process of negation of the superimposition. So just wanted to touch on
Hello, come. There's some
Yeah,
hello?
I don't know what that
There's some
is.
disturbance.
Yeah. Okay, it's gone. Oh.
I'm hearing that. Yeah, tell. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you were asking some questions, that's what I waited.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, fine. Now, towards the end of this, I didn't really follow much towards the end. That what takes you to the nirvana? It mentions in the 25th shloka that yoga, here it comes to the yoga of meditation, knowledge and selfless service. These are the three things it importantly mentions. With in the path of knowledge rather. But then it also mentions about the devotion, that I think is the bhakti. If you have a firm faith and devotion, that is also the path for the nirvana. But one thing which I was trying to understand, but I didn't, to be frank, he makes a statement that whatever is born, animate or inanimate, firmly he says, no, you please know that these are born from the union of spirit and matter.
Yes.
That I was figuring out.
Basically, all of
Once you
creation,
realize,
whether it's a
that is
stone.
one area which I want to have more thing from you.
Yeah,
It says,
essentially.
hello?
Yeah, essentially anything which is animate or inanimate, whether it's stone or wood or a being of any form, they cannot come about unless there is both matter and consciousness. It's just that consciousness in a stone is at a very low grade compared to consciousness in a devata or something like that. So there is nothing which is... See, if you say that God is all pervasive, if He is everything and everything is Him, then everything has to be God. Everything has to be consciousness. You cannot say it is only
Right.
matter. Nothing can be outside consciousness. There's nothing. If there is oneness, if you believe in the oneness of consciousness, of Brahman, how can there be anything outside of consciousness? It is all pervasive, right? So when he's already described the qualities of that Purushaha, of that, he's talking about Prakriti and Purusha in this section. So when he's already described Purusha, then you know that anything and everything is pervaded by both matter and consciousness. It's a combination of Purusha and Prakriti.
Okay.
It's like how a child is born, it's male, female, and then it's an egg and everything. It's nothing like, it's just one. Both have to come together. So basically it's Purusha and Prakriti, consciousness and matter and consciousness, matter and spirit.
Okay, I got it, because I will read more now. That is
Yeah, this is a difficult, now...
This is what I was trying to cover in chapter 30.
Yeah. So, it's already 8:30, so we're not going to go to chapter 14. I can cover chapter 14 briefly in our next session when I start, or you can cover it briefly when we start chapter 15. Chapter 14 is very interesting. It's about the gunas, the three gunas.
There is Sattva, Rajas, Tamas.
Yeah.
Yoga, three guna.
Correct.
Basically.
But to go from chapter 13 to 15 is quite seamless, because chapter 15 starts with the Purushaha, So as chapter 13 is talked about Purusha and Prakriti, it's quite natural that we go to the Purushottama Yoga. Okay? So
Purushottama Yoga is chapter 15. Yeah.
correct. So, and in chapter 13 we have talked about the Purushaha already and its qualities.
Purusha.
So it's okay.
Right.
We can skip 14, It's just the three gunas.
Okay. Three guna. Yeah, it is only three guna. I read that. Yeah.
Yes. So it's been a long session, but it's a good one.
Yeah,
We
really.
got to summarize everything. And I have the recording, so I'm going to put the recording online.